Imagine you are standing on a frozen shoreline. The wind cuts your face like broken glass. Your boots sink into mud mixed with blood. And at your feet, a Viking is screaming. Not screaming in battle. Not roaring with rage. Screaming like prey. His hands are tied behind his back with sinew so tight you can hear the tendons creak. His beard is frozen stiff with ice and spit. His eyes are wide, not with fury, but with disbelief. Because Vikings do not die like this. Vikings are the hunters. Vikings are the storm. And yet tonight, in this forest, under these black trees, they are being hunted like animals. Here is the impossible question. How did the most feared warriors in Europe, men who burned cities, broke empires, and laughed while dying, become so terrified of one people that they stopped raiding an entire region altogether? Because this is not a legend. This is not a saga exaggeration. This happened. And history buried it. Stay with me, because what you are about to hear is darker than anything the Vikings ever did to others. You think it can't get worse? Wait. Before this story ends, you will hear about a Viking warband that vanished so completely not even their bones were found. A tribal leader who learned warfare by watching his family butchered. A battlefield so horrifying that survivors vomited weeks later just remembering it. A tactic so cruel that even hardened Norsemen called it unnatural. And a final revenge so complete that it erased an entire chapter from the Viking Age. And here's the twist. This wasn't done by an empire. Not by knights. Not by kings. It was done by a tribe history barely remembers. A people the Vikings called monsters. You're about to learn why. Now, go back. Go back to the 9th century. Northern Europe smells like smoke and wet wood. Rivers are highways of death. Every coastal village lives in terror of the same sound, oars hitting water in perfect rhythm. The Vikings are coming. You know the stories. You've heard them your whole life. Tall men. Iron axes. Shields locked together. They raid, they burn, they take slaves, they leave bones. And for most of Europe, no one can stop them. Monasteries fall in hours. Cities pay tribute just to survive. Kings bend their knees or die screaming. The Vikings don't just kill you. They make sure others hear about it. Because fear is part of the weapon. Now imagine you are not a king. You are not a warrior. You are not even a soldier. You are part of a forest tribe living far from stone walls and cities. Your world is mud, trees, rivers, and winter that never seems to end. You hunt elk. You fish icy streams. You bury your dead with your own hands. And one summer morning, the river changes color. Red. The Vikings have come for you. They arrive like they always do, confident, laughing, certain of victory. They burn your homes. They kill your elders first, slowly, to teach the children. They take your women. They take your sons. And when they leave nothing standing. This happens once. Then twice. Then again. And something breaks. Because here's the first truth history doesn't like to admit. Not everyone the Vikings attacked ran. Some people watched. Some people remembered. And some people decided the Vikings would bleed. The tribe we are talking about lived in the deep forests and marshlands of the eastern Baltic, a land of endless trees, bogs that swallow horses, and winters that kill the unprepared in days. The Vikings called this place cursed. The people who lived there called it home. They were not armored knights. They had no castles. No walls. No written history. But they had something the Vikings did not. They knew the land so well it became a weapon. And their leader learned cruelty the hard way. Let me tell you about him. His name is not written in sagas. Not carved into stone. We only know fragments, passed down through enemies, whispered by survivors. He was a boy when the Vikings first came. Imagine being that boy. You are hiding in the trees. Your bare feet sink into wet moss. You are holding your breath so hard your chest burns. You can hear your mother screaming somewhere behind you. You want to run. You want to fight. You are too small to do either. You watch as a Viking drags your father into the open. Your father is not a warrior. He is a hunter. His hands are calloused from nets and spears, not swords. He tries to speak. The Viking laughs. The axe comes down once. Not clean. You hear the sound before you see it. Bone doesn't crack like wood. It makes a dull, wet snap. The boy doesn't cry. He can't. Because something else happens. One of the Vikings looks into the forest. Looks directly at him. And smiles. That smile stays with the boy forever. Years later, when he is grown. That smile is what he remembers when he plans their deaths. This is where Act 1 truly begins. Because despair is the forge. And this tribe was being forged into something terrifying. For decades, the Vikings treated this region like a slaughterhouse. They came in summer. They left in autumn. They took what they wanted and never stayed long enough to face consequences. Why would they? No organized armies. No kings. No retaliation. Until suddenly, something changes. The raids start going wrong. A scouting party disappears. Not killed in battle. Not found dead. Just gone. Then another group vanishes. Then a longship returns early, its crew silent, eyes hollow. They tell stories the other Vikings don't like hearing. Men taken alive. Tracks that led into marshes and never came out. Shapes moving between trees, always just out of sight. At first, the Jarls laugh it off. Cowards. Drunkards. Weak men making excuses. So they send more warriors. And this time, bodies come back. Mutilated. Stripped of armor. Marked. Not random violence. Deliberate. A message. Imagine you are a Viking seeing this. You have burned churches. You have cracked skulls for silver. You believe the gods favor strength and courage. And now you are staring at one of your own. His chest is opened. Not torn. Opened. His ribs pulled apart like a butcher preparing meat. His organs arranged carefully on the ground. His face, calm. Too calm. Someone wanted you to see this. And the worst part? No valuables taken. The tribe doesn't want your silver. They want your fear. This is where our leader steps forward. The boy who watched his father die is now a man. Scarred. Silent. Watching everything. He has spent years studying the Vikings the way hunters study wolves. Their habits. Their pride. Their arrogance. He knows something important. Vikings are unbeatable in open battle. So he refuses to fight one. Instead, he plans a hunt. He tells his people something that sounds insane. We will never meet them as warriors. We will meet them as prey. At first, no one believes him. How do you hunt men who wear armor and carry steel? And this is where Act 3 begins. Because the plan is not about strength. It is about humiliation. The tribe stops defending villages. They let the Vikings burn empty homes. They let them take food. Let them think nothing has changed. But quietly, everything has. Paths are altered. Bridges weakened. False trails laid. The forests are turned into traps. Imagine walking through unfamiliar woods. The trees press in close. The ground is soft. Your boots sink deeper with every step. You hear something behind you, maybe a branch snapping. You turn. Nothing. You laugh it off. And then the ground gives way. A Viking falls into a pit filled with sharpened stakes, not deep enough to kill instantly. He screams. The forest answers. Not with war cries. With silence. And someone is watching. This is only the beginning. Because what happens next will change how the Vikings see this land forever. And you are not ready for what they do to the first man they take alive. You think the Vikings invented terror? Wait. The first man they take alive does not understand what is happening. He is a veteran. Raided Francia. Fought Saxons. He has killed men who begged and men who prayed. When he fell into the pit, he thought this was just bad luck. Painful, yes, a stake through the thigh, another tearing into his calf, but pain is familiar. Pain is survivable. He screams for help. No answer. The forest does not echo him back. It absorbs him. Hours pass. The sun slides lower. Cold creeps in. Blood loss makes his thoughts sluggish. He starts bargaining, not with gods, but with the dark itself. He promises silver, slaves, anything. Then he hears footsteps. Not heavy. Bare. Several of them. Faces appear above the pit. Not shouting. Not raging. Calm. Observing. Like people inspecting an animal caught in a snare. One of them lowers a spear. Slowly. Not to kill him. To pin him. The Viking realizes something is wrong when they don't finish him. When they don't loot his gear. When they don't even speak. They pull him out. Carefully. They bind his wounds just enough to keep him alive. That's when the real terror begins. They march him through the forest, but not straight. Always circling. Always doubling back. Hours blur together. He loses all sense of direction. When he tries to mark trees with his blood, he realizes his hands are bound. He is taken to a clearing. No village. No huts. No fire. Just a circle of trees. And people. Men. Women. Old ones. Children. All watching. This is not an execution. This is a lesson. The leader steps forward. He does not shout. He does not boast. He does not insult. He simply looks at the Viking. And then, in broken Norse, he speaks. You hunt us. We hunt you now. The Viking laughs. Because Vikings laugh at death. That laughter dies very quickly. They do not kill him fast. They strip him of armor piece by piece, not roughly, deliberately. Every buckle unfastened slowly. Every layer removed as if this were ritual. Cold air hits his skin. Fear finally reaches his eyes. Then they cut him. Not deep. Just enough. They cut lines into his arms. His chest. His legs. Not random. Symmetrical. Almost artistic. The pain is sharp, but manageable. He clenches his teeth. He waits for the killing blow. It never comes. Instead, they smear something into the wounds. Sap. Resin. Crushed plants. The pain explodes. It burns. It itches. It feels alive. His muscles spasm uncontrollably. He screams until his throat bleeds. And still they do not kill him. They leave him tied to a tree. Alive. Visible. They let the forest take him. Insects crawl into the cuts. Cold sets in. Infection begins almost immediately. He screams all night. At dawn, silence. When the Vikings come looking for him days later, they find what's left. He is still tied. Still standing. Dead. Eyes wide open. And carved into the tree behind him, in crude runes scratched with a knife, is a message. Turn back. This is when the stories start spreading. At first, quietly. Whispers around campfires. Nervous jokes that no one laughs at. Veterans warning younger men not to wander off alone. Jarls dismiss it. Forest savages, they say. Superstitions. So they do what Vikings always do. They escalate. A larger warband is assembled. More ships. More men. Better weapons. They will march inland and crush this tribe once and for all. And for a moment, it looks like they might succeed. They burn deeper. They move faster. They take hostages and use them as guides. This is when we meet the second real human story. Her name does not survive, but her fate does. She is a young woman from the tribe, taken in a raid. She watches her captors carefully. She listens when they think she doesn't understand. She learns their roots, their arrogance, their habits. One night, she escapes. Not running. Walking. Calmly. She waits until the camp is drunk. Until the guards are lazy. until the night hides her. She slips into the forest and disappears. By dawn, she is back with her people. And she brings something priceless. Information. She tells them how many Vikings there are, where they sleep, how they arrange their sentries, where their fear hides beneath their bravado. The leader listens. Then he changes the plan. This will not be a slow hunt anymore. This will be a slaughter. The tribe does something that shocks even themselves. They split. Small groups. 4, 5, 6 people at most. Each group knows exactly what to do. Each has rehearsed their role. They do not aim to win. They aim to break. The Vikings march through the forest, confident again. Laughing. Talking about how they'll drag these cowards out by the hair. Then the arrows start. Not volleys. Single shots. One man falls. Then another. Then silence. The Vikings rush toward the direction of the attack. There is nothing there. Another arrow. Another scream. Now panic creeps in. They form up. Shields raised. Eyes darting everywhere. That's when the traps trigger. Trees fall. Nets drop. The ground collapses. Chaos. Men trip. Shields scatter. Orders are lost in shouting. And in that confusion, the tribe strikes. Not charging. Dragging. They grab isolated men and pull them into the trees. Knives flash. Throats are cut quietly. Bodies vanish. The Vikings try to regroup. They can't. Every time they stop, something happens. Every time they move, someone dies. This goes on for days. No rest. No sleep. No safety. The forest becomes a nightmare maze where death can come from any direction. And then comes the moment that truly breaks them. One morning, they wake to find something outside their camp. Bodies. Their own. Arranged in a circle. Each one posed differently. Some kneeling. Some sitting. Some standing upright, propped with sticks. Their faces are intact. Their expressions are peaceful. Too peaceful. Someone has washed the blood away. This is not rage. This is control. Even the toughest warriors feel their stomachs turn. One man vomits. Another refuses to look. A third whispers a prayer he hasn't spoken since childhood. The leader of the Viking warband, a man named Hrolf, known for surviving 3 major raids, realizes the truth. They are not fighting an enemy. They are inside a ritual. And they are losing. He orders a retreat. That should have saved them. It doesn't. Because retreat means following the river. And the river is exactly where the tribe wants them. As the Vikings load their ships in haste, arrows rain down. Men fall into the water, armor dragging them under. Boats drift loose. Panic explodes. One ship pushes off early. Overloaded. Unbalanced. It hits a submerged obstacle the tribe placed weeks earlier. The hull cracks. Water floods in. Men scream and claw over each other. Some drown. Some are pulled under by the weight of others. The tribe watches from the shore. They do not intervene. They let the river decide. By the time the survivors reach open water, half the warband is gone. The rest are broken. This should be the end. This should be the false ending. The Vikings flee. The tribe survives. But you already know this story doesn't end there. Because Vikings do not forget humiliation. And neither does this tribe. Years later, the Vikings return. Bigger. Angrier. Led by men who want revenge more than gold. And this time, the tribe almost dies. This is where everything goes wrong. The Vikings land in winter, something they rarely do. Frozen rivers make movement easier. Marshes are solid. The forest is stripped bare. The tribe's greatest weapon, the land, betrays them. The Vikings burn real villages this time. They catch people before they can vanish. They kill openly, brutally, publicly. The leader watches his people die again. The despair returns. This is Act 5. The lowest point. The tribe considers fleeing forever, abandoning the land, becoming refugees in someone else's shadow. The leader is wounded. A deep cut across his ribs. Infection sets in. Fever takes him. As he drifts in and out of consciousness, he dreams of his father, of the smile, of the axe. And then, he remembers something. Something the Vikings forgot. Something old. Something hidden. Something the land still remembers. And that forgotten trick is about to turn hunters into meat. The fever almost kills him. For 3 days, the leader drifts between worlds. His body burns, then freezes. His chest wound seeps and stinks of rot. The tribe thinks he is dying. Some begin preparing for a future without him. Others argue. Fear fractures unity faster than any sword. And this is exactly when the Vikings think they've won. They camp openly now. Fires blazing. Shields stacked carelessly. They laugh again. They drink. They tell stories of past raids, of lands burned, of women taken. They think the forest is beaten. They are wrong. On the 3rd night, the leader wakes suddenly. Eyes snapping open. Breath sharp. Mind clear. He sits up despite the pain and whispers a single word. Winter. Not the season. The weapon. You see, long before Vikings ever touched these shores, this land had its own way of killing invaders. The elders used to tell stories of armies swallowed whole without a battle. Of men who marched in and never came out. Not because of blades, but because of water. The bogs. In summer, they are obvious. In winter, they are deadly. Frozen on top. Liquid beneath. A false floor. The leader remembers watching an elk vanish into one as a child. One moment standing. The next. Gone. No struggle. No sound. Just silence and ripples. The Vikings don't know this. They see frozen ground and think it is safe. The leader gathers the tribe. He can barely stand. 2 people support him. Blood soaks his bandages. But his voice is calm. Focused. Certain. He gives orders. Very specific orders. They will not attack the main camp. They will not ambush. They will guide. They will become shadows. That night, small groups slip out. They are not armed heavily. No armor. No shields. Only knives, ropes, and poles. They move through the forest silently, marking paths only they can read. Breaking ice in precise places. Covering holes with snow and reeds. Making the land look normal. Inviting. At dawn, they let themselves be seen. Just briefly. A figure between trees. A silhouette on a ridge. Footprints leading away. The Vikings take the bait immediately. Of course they do. They have waited all winter for revenge. They are tired of cat and mouse. They want blood. Hrolf is not with them this time. He died months earlier from an infected wound, muttering about forests that watched you back. This new leader is younger. More aggressive. Less cautious. He orders the chase. The Vikings pour into the forest in pursuit. And the land opens its mouth. The first man falls through ice up to his waist. He laughs at first, embarrassed. His comrades rush to pull him out. That's when the ice breaks completely. He drops. The water is black. Thick. Freezing. He screams. They try to pull him up, but his armor drags him down. Mud grips his legs like hands. Panic spreads as another man slips, then another. The tribe watches from the trees. They do not rush. They do not shout. They wait. The Vikings struggle harder, which makes it worse. The more they fight, the deeper they sink. Some cut away armor. Some abandon shields. Some claw at their own comrades to escape. The screams echo through the forest. And still, more Vikings charge forward, unaware. Within minutes, the bog is chaos. Men drowning. Others frozen in terror, unable to move without risking the same fate. That's when the arrows fly. Not many. Just enough. Men fall into the bog wounded, unable to swim, unable to crawl. The water fills with blood. This is the miracle twist. No glorious charge. No heroic duel. Just inevitability. The Vikings try to retreat, but the paths behind them are gone. Ice breaks where they step. Panic takes over completely now. Some throw down weapons and beg. The tribe does not answer. This is not battle. This is culling. By nightfall, the bog is quiet again. The surface freezes. Beneath it, bodies, armor, weapons, dreams of revenge. Gone. But this is not the end. This is only the beginning of the revenge. Because the survivors run. And the tribe lets them. On purpose. They want witnesses. The Vikings who escape carry stories back to the coast. Stories so horrific they are dismissed at first as madness. Men swallowed by the earth. Forests that move. Enemies who never show their faces. Jarls argue. Some want to return with even more men. Others hesitate. Then comes the third real human story. A Viking named Einar. He is young. Barely more than a boy. He survived the bog by cutting himself free from his own armor and crawling on his stomach like an animal. He makes it back to the ships days later. Half frozen. Half mad. When he speaks, people listen. He tells them something that changes everything. They didn't fight us, he says. They studied us. They waited years. They knew exactly where we would step. Then he says the words no Viking wants to hear. They are not afraid of us anymore. That fear spreads faster than fire. Raids slow. Then stop. That region becomes avoided. Marked on mental maps as cursed. Not worth the risk. Years pass. The tribe rebuilds slowly. Quietly. They do not celebrate. They do not sing victory songs. They bury their dead and move on. The leader survives the winter but never fully heals. He walks with a limp now. His breath rasps. He knows his time is limited. And then, one last insult comes. A final Viking ship appears on the horizon. Just one. A scouting mission. Testing the waters. The leader smiles for the first time in years. He does not mobilize the tribe. He walks alone to the shore. Unarmed. The Vikings watch him cautiously. Confused. He stops at the water's edge. He points inland. Then he turns his back on them. And walks away. The Vikings hesitate. Then they leave. That ship never returns. No one ever raids that land again. Not because the Vikings were wiped out. But because they learned something far worse. They learned fear. And history barely remembers this. No sagas glorify it. No runestones boast of it. The Vikings did not like recording losses, especially ones that made them look like prey. So the story fades. But the land remembers. Bogs still hold bodies. Armor still surfaces centuries later, preserved by cold and mud. Silent proof of men who thought themselves unstoppable. You think this is the end. It's not. Because what the tribe did after the Vikings stopped coming is even darker. The silence after the Vikings leave is not peaceful. It is heavy. No oars. No horns. No smoke on the horizon. Just wind moving through trees that have seen too much blood. For the first time in generations, the tribe wakes without fear of longships. Children grow without learning which direction to run. Fires burn at night again. Songs return, softly at first, as if afraid to wake something. But victory has a price. The tribe is smaller now. Too many graves. Too many names spoken only in whispers. The leader walks among them like a ghost, his body alive but something inside him permanently broken. He knows something most people never admit. Survival does not erase trauma. It only gives it time to rot. And rot it does. Because once you learn how to hunt men, you never fully stop. The elders begin to notice changes. Hunters coming back with stories that don't sit right. Young men practicing traps meant for people, not animals. Children playing games where the Viking is always dragged away screaming. The tribe has crossed a line. They are no longer only survivors. They are predators who learned too well. The leader understands this danger. He gathers the tribe one final time. His hair is grey now. His hands shake. His voice, once iron, is thin, but it carries. He tells them a story. Not of victory. Of warning. He tells them what he felt the first time he watched a Viking drown without lifting a hand. The relief. The satisfaction. The emptiness that followed. He says something that shocks them. If we become what hunted us, the forest will turn on us too. Some listen. Some don't. Because power is intoxicating. Years later, neighboring tribes start disappearing. Hunters found dead in strange ways. Camps abandoned without signs of struggle. People whisper the same fear they once felt about Vikings. Only now, the monster has a familiar face. This is the darkest truth history never tells you. Violence teaches well. Too well. The leader dies one winter morning quietly in his sleep. No ceremony. No monuments. Just burial beneath a pine tree, far from the bogs. And with him, the restraint dies too. A generation later, the tribe fractures. Some want isolation. Others want dominance. Old alliances break. Small wars begin, not with Vikings, but with neighbors. Ironically, when later medieval powers expand into the region, they find ruins. Scattered settlements. Bogs filled with bones that don't match any known battle. Historians argue for centuries. Ritual killings? Religious sacrifices? Lost cultures? The truth is simpler. This land learned how to kill invaders. And forgot how to stop. The Vikings, meanwhile, tell a different story. In their tales, this place becomes a myth. A land of spirits. A forest that eats men. A cursed coast best avoided. They don't name the tribe. They don't name the leader. They erase them by turning them into superstition. And that works. For a long time. Until archaeologists begin pulling things out of the mud. Perfectly preserved bodies. Armor still strapped on. Faces frozen in terror. No battle wounds. No glory. Just death. Slow. Cold. Helpless. Modern science confirms what the sagas wouldn't admit. These men didn't die fighting. They were hunted. And suddenly, the old stories make sense. The abandoned trade routes. The unexplained gaps in Viking expansion. The fear embedded in later maps. This wasn't a single battle. It was a psychological defeat. The Vikings were not beaten by steel. They were beaten by patience. By memory. By a people who refused to meet them on their terms. And here is the cruel irony. The tribe did not survive history. The Vikings did. The very people who were hunted became legends. The hunters became footnotes. Which brings us to the final truth. History doesn't reward justice. It rewards whoever writes last. And that is why you've never heard this story told properly. Until now. You think you understand the Viking Age. Raids. Longships. Axes. Glory. That is the story you were given. Now let me tell you the story underneath it. Imagine you are a Viking sailor, decades after the Bog Massacre. You are older now. Scarred. Your beard is streaked with grey. You have survived battles most men don't. You have killed and watched friends die. And yet, there is one place you refuse to sail. You won't say why out loud. But at night, when the fire burns low and someone mentions that coast, your hand tightens around your cup. You remember screams that didn't echo. You remember ice breaking under your feet. You remember men sinking without a blade touching them. You remember being powerless. And Vikings are not supposed to remember that. This is the psychological wound the tribe inflicted, deeper than any sword cut. Because every empire, every raiding culture, every conquering people survives on a shared illusion, that they are unstoppable. Once that illusion cracks, everything changes. After the tribe's victory, Viking expansion subtly shifts. Raids become more cautious. Winter campaigns decrease. Certain inland regions remain untouched for generations. Historians debate this endlessly. Logistics, weather, economics. But survivors knew the truth. Some places fight back in ways you cannot adapt to. This is your second false ending. You might think the story ends with the Vikings retreating, licking their wounds, learning humility. It doesn't. Because humiliation doesn't breed humility. It breeds obsession. There are whispers, fragmentary, half-erased, of later Viking attempts to return. Small groups. Private revenge missions. Men who refused to accept the taboo. None came back. No bodies. No ships. No stories. Just absence. Absence is terrifying. And now, centuries later, that absence still speaks. When modern archaeologists began excavating northern bogs, they expected ancient sacrifices. Maybe criminals. Maybe rituals. What they found instead were professional warriors. Calloused hands. Healed fractures from old battles. Teeth worn from ship life. Weapons still strapped on. These were not locals. These were Vikings. Men who expected to die with steel in hand, and instead drowned in silence. Some bodies show signs of restraint. Others of deliberate positioning. Some appear to have been stripped and redressed. This wasn't chaos. This was control. The tribe understood something every successful predator understands. Killing is easy. Breaking the spirit of those who come after is the real victory. That is why they let survivors escape. That is why they staged bodies. That is why they carved messages. Fear spreads faster than any army. Now let me tell you something uncomfortable. The tribe didn't win because they were morally superior. They won because they were willing to go further than their enemy. They weaponized patience. They weaponized memory. They weaponized the land itself. And once you do that, you can never fully undo it. This is the final human story. Decades after the last Viking sighting, a young hunter from a neighboring people travels near the forbidden forest. He has heard stories. Everyone has. Spirits. Curses. Disappearing men. He doesn't believe them. He enters the forest at dusk. He never returns. Weeks later, his brother searches for him. He finds nothing. Except one thing. A crude symbol carved into a tree. Not a rune. Not a warning. Just a simple mark. The same mark found on Viking remains centuries later. This is how legends are born, not from exaggeration, but from repetition. The tribe becomes a shadow in regional memory. A story parents used to scare children. A reason roads bend away from certain areas. A place maps quietly avoid. And slowly, the tribe itself dissolves. Not in conquest. In isolation. They stop trading. Stop marrying outside. Stop recording stories. Oral history fractures. Names fade. Bloodlines mix or disappear. The Vikings are remembered. The tribe is not. And here is the cruelest twist of all. The Vikings didn't lose because they were weak. They lost because they assumed everyone fought the same way they did. Axes. Shields. Courage. They never imagined an enemy who would refuse honor, refuse battle, refuse glory, and choose effectiveness instead. History loves heroes. It hates uncomfortable victories. So this story was buried. Until now. You now know something 99% of people never will. You know that the Viking Age was not just conquest, it was resistance. You know that somewhere in the dark forests of the north, a people looked at the most feared warriors in Europe and decided not to run, but to adapt. And adaptation is the most dangerous weapon of all. Because it doesn't care about tradition. It doesn't care about pride. It doesn't care about reputation. It only cares about survival. And when survival is on the line, humans are capable of becoming things that even monsters fear. So the next time you hear about Vikings as unstoppable hunters, remember this. There was a place they would not go. A forest they would not enter. A shore they would not land on. Not because of gods. Not because of magic, but because once someone hunted them back, and they never forgot it. Neither should you, because history isn't just written by the victors. Sometimes, it's written by the survivors who are too terrifying to remember.